Captain Trent Evergreen stood at the helm of the swift Retribution, his eyes fixed on the swirling void of space before him. The sleek lines of his fast-attack cruiser belied its deadly purpose. Today they weren't hauling cargo for the Free Trader Coalition. Today they were delivering judgment. Pre-flight checks complete. Captain, his first officer, Emily Eaton, reported from her station. All systems are green. Trent nodded, his jaw set with grim determination. Initiate launch sequence. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Trent's mind drifted back to the disastrous negotiations just days ago. The arrogant faces of the alien delegation swam before his eyes, the beings that called themselves the Destroyers of Worlds. Their very name was a boast and a threat rolled into one. He remembered Ambassador Johansson's final words before all hell broke loose. Remember this, you overgrown squids. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. The aliens hadn't understood the idiom, but they'd understood the defiance in her tone. What followed was a bloodbath. Captain Eaton's voice snapped him back to the present. The crew is assembled in the briefing room. Trent took a deep breath. Right. Let's go over the mission parameters one last time. In the cramped briefing room, faces both determined and anxious looked up at him. Some were veterans who'd faced the destroyers before. Others were fresh-faced recruits who'd never seen real combat. All of them knew the stakes. Ladies and gentlemen, Trent began, his voice steady, in the cargo hold of this ship, we carry humanity's response to the destroyer's aggression. The eggheads back home call it the Fat Lady. He pulled up a holographic display of the weapon, a sleek, oval device that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. This bomb, he continued, is the culmination of every weapons technology humanity has ever developed. Its core generates sound waves so powerful they can literally tear a planet apart. When this fat lady sings, it'll be a requiem for our enemies. A low whistle came from the back of the room. Holy shit, someone muttered. Trent's expression hardened. Our mission is simple but far from easy. We penetrate the destroyer's home system, deploy the fat lady on their capital world, and get the hell out before she blows. Intel suggests we'll face heavy resistance. This is a one-way ticket for a lot of us. He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. But if we succeed, we end the destroyer threat once and for all. No more colonies wiped out. No more worlds shattered. We stop them here, or we die trying. The room was silent for a moment. Then Eden stood up, her face set with resolve. For Earth, she said quietly. For Earth, the crew echoed, their voices growing stronger with each repetition. Trent nodded, feeling a swell of pride. To your stations. We launch in 5. As the crew filed out, Trent took one last look at the hologram of the fat lady. In a few hours, that unassuming device would change the course of the war if they could deliver it. All right, you son of a bitch, he muttered to the image. Let's go make you sing. The swift Retribution sliced through the inky blackness of space, its stealth systems engaged to the maximum. Captain Trent Evergreen sat rigid in his command chair, eyes glued to the tactical display. They were now deep in enemy territory, each passing moment bringing them closer to the destroyer's home world and to potential discovery. Status report, Trent barked, breaking the tense silence on the bridge. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the ship's sensors officer, responded without taking his eyes off his console. All quiet so far, Captain. No sign of enemy patrols in our immediate vicinity. Trent nodded, but the knot in his stomach only tightened. The lack of resistance so far was unsettling. Either their intel was wrong, or the destroyers were preparing a nasty surprise. Emily, he turned to his first officer, run another diagnostic on our cloaking systems. I want to make sure we're as invisible as tech can make us. Eaton nodded and set to work. Moments later, her console beeped. Cloaking at 98% efficiency, Captain. Any higher and we risk overheating the emitters. Trent grimaced. It would have to do. Suddenly, Rodriguez's station erupted in a cacophony of alarms. Contact. Multiple contacts at bearing 047, closing fast. Battle stations, Trent roared, punching the ship wide alert. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow as crew members scrambled to their positions. The tactical display lit up with a swarm of enemy signatures. Trent's mind raced. Had they been detected, or was this just a routine patrol? Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Keep us out of their sensor range. The swift retribution banked hard, its inertial dampers straining to compensate. Trent felt his stomach lurch as the ship dove beneath the incoming patrol. For several agonizing minutes, they played a deadly game of hide and seek among the stars. The enemy ships passed overhead, their powerful sensors probing the space around them. Just as Trent thought they were in the clear, a stray energy beam from one of the destroyer ships grazed their hull. "We've been hit," Eaton reported, her fingers flying over her console. "Minor damage to the outer hull. Cloaking field is fluctuating." Trent gritted his teeth. They couldn't afford a prolonged engagement, not with their precious cargo. Tactical, prepare a spread of ECM decoys. Navigation, plot a course through that nearby asteroid field. As the decoys launched, creating false sensor echoes, the swift retribution dove into the tumbling mass of space rocks. Trent held his breath as they weaved through the treacherous field, the pursuing enemy ships growing more distant with each passing second. Finally, after what felt like hours, Rodriguez's voice broke the silence. "We're clear, Captain. No signs of pursuit." A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. Trent allowed himself a small smile. They'd survived their first encounter, but he knew it was only the beginning. "Damage report," he called out. Eaton's response was grim. "Hull integrity at 92%. We've got microfractures in sections 5 through 8. Engineering reports they can patch them, but we'll be vulnerable if we take any more direct hits." Trent nodded, his mind already racing ahead to their next move. They were battered but still in the fight. More importantly, the fat lady was safe and ready to sing. "All right, people," he addressed his crew, noting the mixture of fear and determination on their faces. "That was our wake-up call. From here on out, it only gets harder. But remember what we're fighting for. Every mile we cross brings us closer to ending this war." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Now, let's deliver this package and make the destroyers regret the day they ever heard of humanity." As the swift retribution pressed on towards its target, Trent couldn't shake the feeling that their true test was yet to come. The destroyer's homeworld loomed ahead, a fortress world bristling with defenses. Somehow they needed to break through and give the fat lady her stage. The fate of Earth, of all humanity, rested on their success. The swift retribution emerged from its final jump point, the destroyer's homeworld looming large in the main view screen. Captain Trent Evergreen felt his breath catch in his throat. The planet was a fortress, its orbit thick with defense platforms and patrolling warships. "My God," whispered Eaton from beside him. "How are we supposed to get through that?" Trent's jaw clenched. "One step at a time, Emily. One step at a time." Before he could issue orders, Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension. "Multiple contacts incoming. They've detected us." The space around them erupted into chaos. Energy beams lanced out from the planet's defensive grid, while squadrons of enemy fighters poured from the larger ships like angry hornets from a nest. "Evasive maneuvers," Trent shouted. "Weapons free. Target those fighters first." The swift retribution banked hard, its point defense lasers lighting up the void as they picked off the incoming fighters. But for each one they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. A massive impact rocked the ship, throwing Trent against his restraints. "Damage report." Eaton's voice was strained as she responded, "Direct hit to our starboard engine. We're losing power and maneuverability." Trent's mind raced. They were still too far out to deploy the fat lady, but at this rate they'd never make it to the optimal firing position. "Engineering," he barked into the comm. "I need that engine back online now." "We're working on it," Captain, came the harried reply. "But we've got multiple hull breaches. We're losing atmosphere in sections 3 through 7. Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, Trent thought they'd lost power completely. Sir Rodriguez called out, his voice tight with fear and determination. 3 capital ships moving to cut us off. We're being boxed in. Trent stared at the tactical display, watching as their window of opportunity rapidly closed. They were so close, yet the planet's defenses seemed impenetrable. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Had they come all this way just to fail? Then his eyes fell on a small, pulsing icon on his command console, the status indicator for the Fat Lady. Still intact. Still ready. In that moment, Trent made a decision that would either save humanity or doom them all. "New plan," he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. "We're going to punch a hole through their lines." Eaton looked at him in disbelief. "Sir, with all due respect, that's suicide." Maybe Trent agreed, but it's the only shot we've got. Divert all power to the forward shields in our remaining engine. We're going to ram our way through. As the crew scrambled to comply, Trent opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to attempt a breakthrough maneuver. It's going to get rough, but I need every one of you to hold on and keep fighting. Remember why we're here. Remember Earth." With a silent prayer to whatever might be listening, Trent gave the order. "Full speed ahead. Aim for the gap between those capital ships." The swift Retribution surged forward, its remaining engine screaming in protest. Enemy fire intensified, battering their shields and scorching their hull. Warnings blared across every console as systems failed and damage reports flooded in. But they pressed on, a single arrow of human defiance streaking towards its target. As they approached the enemy formation, Trent saw his opportunity. Now. Fire everything we've got at the ship on our port side. Their remaining weapons erupted, concentrating all their firepower on a single point. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent flash, a section of the enemy ship's hull crumpled. "That's our hole. Take us through." The swift Retribution slipped through the gap, scraping past debris and wreckage. Alarms blared as the strain threatened to tear the ship apart. And then, suddenly, they were through. The planet loomed large before them, no capital ships between them and their target. Trent allowed himself a moment of fierce joy. They'd made it through the gauntlet. They were battered, bleeding atmosphere, and running on fumes, but they'd made it. Now came the hard part. "All hands, prepare for Fat Lady deployment," he ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Let's finish this." As they hurtled towards their firing position, the weight of their mission pressed down on Trent. One way or another, the next few minutes would decide the fate of humanity. It was time for the Fat Lady to sing her deadly song. The swift Retribution hurtled towards the destroyer's homeworld, a wounded bird of prey with talons of unimaginable destruction. On the bridge, Captain Trent Evergreen's fingers danced over his console, making final adjustments to their approach vector. "Status on the Fat Lady," he barked, eyes never leaving the rapidly approaching planet. Eaton's voice was tight with tension. "Payload is primed and ready, Captain. Deployment systems are green across the board." Trent nodded grimly. "Tactical. What's our situation?" Rodriguez's response was clipped and professional, but Trent could hear the underlying strain. "Enemy forces regrouping, sir. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they're on us again. Planet-side defenses are already firing." As if to punctuate his words, the ship shuddered under a barrage of energy weapons from the surface. "Shields down to 15%," Eaton reported. "Hull integrity critical in multiple sections. We can't take much more of this, Captain." Trent's mind raced. They were so close, but the window of opportunity was rapidly closing. If they didn't release the payload soon, they'd be shot out of the sky and humanity's last hope would die with them. He made his decision. "Prepare for emergency payload deployment. We're launching the Fat Lady now." A chorus of affirmatives rang out as the crew sprang into action. In the belly of the ship, massive doors began to iris open, exposing the gleaming form of the Fat Lady to the vacuum of space. Sir Eaton interjected, "We're still outside the optimal deployment range. If we launch now, we risk." "I know the risks," Trent cut her off, his voice iron. "But we're out of options. It's now or never. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. With steady hands, he input the final launch codes. "May God have mercy on us all," he murmured. Then, louder, "Deploy the Fat Lady." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship lurched as the massive payload detached from its moorings. The Fat Lady, humanity's ultimate weapon, began its descent towards the planet below. Payload away Eaton confirmed. Tracking systems online. Impact in T-60 seconds. Trent allowed himself a moment of relief before reality came crashing back. All power to engines. Get us out of here now. The swift Retribution banked hard, its remaining engines screaming as it pushed the battered ship to its limits. Behind them, the Fat Lady fell towards its target, a silent harbinger of destruction. On the tactical display, Trent watched as enemy ships scrambled to intercept the falling weapon. Energy beams and missiles streaked towards it, but the Fat Lady's defenses held. Impact in 30 seconds, Eaton counted down. 25. 25. The ship rocked violently as a lucky shot from a pursuing enemy vessel found its mark. "We've lost the port stabilizer," Rodriguez shouted over the blaring alarms, entering uncontrolled spin. Trent gripped his chair, knuckles white. Auxiliary thrusters. Anything to keep us steady. 10 seconds to impact. Eaton's voice cut through the chaos. 9. 8. The view screen filled with the flash of weapons fire as the destroyers made their last, desperate attempt to stop the Fat Lady. 5. 4. 3. Trent closed his eyes, offering a silent prayer. 2. 1. For a heartbeat, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, the Fat Lady began to sing. A blinding light erupted from the planet's surface, so intense that even the ship's automatic filters couldn't fully dampen it. A shockwave of pure sound followed, visible as a ripple distorting space itself. The effect was catastrophic. The planet's crust began to fracture, massive fissures spreading like spiderwebs across its surface. Entire continents shattered, oceans boiled, and the very atmosphere seemed to peel away. And still, the Fat Lady's song continued, building to an unimaginable crescendo. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. Trent stared in awe and horror at the unfolding destruction. They had done it. They had stopped the destroyers, but at what cost? His reverie was broken by Eaton's urgent voice. "Captain, the shock wave is expanding. At this rate, it'll overtake us in less than a minute." Trent snapped back to action. "All power to engines. Redline them if you have to. We need to outrun that wave." As the swift Retribution strained to escape the expanding sphere of destruction, Trent spared one last glance at the dying world behind them. The Fat Lady's song was fading now, but its echoes would resonate through the galaxy for eons to come. Humanity had written its defiance across the stars in fire and sound. Now, they just had to survive to tell the tale. "Hold on," everyone, Trent called out as the shockwave loomed ever closer. "We're not out of this yet." The swift Retribution raced against the approaching wall of energy, carrying with it the fate of humanity and the echoes of the Fat Lady's deadly aria. The swift Retribution burned through space, its engines pushed far beyond their safety limits. Behind them, the shock wave from the Fat Lady's detonation expanded relentlessly, a wall of energy that threatened to engulf them at any moment. On the bridge, klaxons blared and warning lights flashed as system after system redlined. Captain Trent Evergreen's knuckles were white on the arms of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the aft view screen. His distance to shockwave, he demanded, voice taut with tension. Rodriguez's reply was clipped. "Closing fast, sir. At current velocity, impact in 30 seconds. Trent's mind raced. They were so close to escaping, but not close enough. He needed to buy them more time, just a few more precious seconds. "Jettison all non-essential mass," he ordered. "Escape pods, reserve fuel tanks, anything we can spare. We need to lighten the ship." The crew jumped into action, and Trent felt a series of small shudders as various components were ejected into space. On the scanner, he saw the jettisoned mass being swallowed by the approaching wave. "It's working," Eaton exclaimed. "Our velocity is increasing." But would it be enough? Trent watched as the countdown ticked away. 20 seconds, 15, 10. "All hands, brace for impact," he shouted, gripping his chair tightly. The shock wave hit them like a physical blow. The swift retribution bucked and shuddered, threatening to tear itself apart. Sparks flew from overloading consoles, and the lights flickered ominously. For several heart-stopping moments, Trent was sure this was the end. Then, gradually, the shaking subsided. An eerie quiet fell over the bridge, broken only by the crackle of damaged electronics and the labored breathing of the crew. "Status report," Trent managed, his voice hoarse. Eaton's fingers danced over her console. "Hull integrity at 43%. Multiple breaches, but emergency force fields are holding. Engines are miraculously still online, but barely. Life support is functional. We're alive, Captain. We made it." A ragged cheer went up from the crew. They had done the impossible. They had delivered the Fat Lady, destroyed the destroyer's homeworld, and survived to tell the tale. As the adrenaline began to fade, Trent felt the weight of their actions settle on his shoulders. He turned to the forward view screen, now showing only the star-studded blackness of space. Somewhere behind them, a planet lay in ruins, along with billions of lives. "Send a coded burst transmission to command," he ordered quietly. Message reads, "Fat Lady has sung. Threat neutralized. Requesting immediate extraction." He paused, then added, "And pray they get here before our life support gives out." As Eaton sent the message, Trent stood and addressed his battered crew. "I won't lie to you. What we did today was terrible. We destroyed a world. But in doing so, we saved countless others. The destroyer's reign of terror is over. Earth and all of humanity is safe because of your courage and sacrifice." He looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of each crew member. "Whatever happens next, whatever the galaxy makes of our actions here, know this: I'm proud of every single one of you. It has been my greatest honor to serve as your captain." A solemn silence fell over the bridge, each person lost in their own thoughts about the enormity of what they had just accomplished. Hours passed as they drifted through space, nursing their wounded ship and waiting for rescue. Trent found himself staring out at the stars, pondering the future. The destroyers were finished, but at what cost? How would the other species of the galaxy view humanity now? Would they be seen as saviors, or would they become the very monsters they had fought so hard to stop? His musings were interrupted by Rodriguez's excited voice. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple signatures on long-range scanners. It's the rescue fleet." Relief washed over Trent. They were going home. As the fleet approached, he allowed himself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity had proven its resilience. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. The Fat Lady had sung her song, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the rescue ships drew alongside the battered Swift Retribution, Trent Evergreen stood tall, ready to face whatever the future might bring. The war was over. Now came the hard part: building a lasting peace. But that was a challenge for another day. For now, they had won. Against all odds, humanity had prevailed. And that, Trent thought as he prepared to greet their rescuers, was a song worth singing. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.